Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Tuesday's breakdown of Euro Dollar. So yeah, daily chart obviously starting to mitigate more of the orders within the wick of this daily demand zone, which is right at the bottom of this strong weekly low. So although we are bearish on the daily and the 4 hour chart, weekly is still bullish, and at any point we could start to form that weekly high low. So kind of two main hard time frame forecasts is looking to see if we get a daily and 4 hour lower high around the supply level, and then look to target these lows here. And just continue to look for those sells until we either potentially see price breakout to the upside, potentially come back into those flips, right, changes of character, and then see if we get that longer term trend change to then target that weekly high there. So we're literally just looking for the shorts from here, whilst being aware that we could start to break out and have that longer movement to the upside. On the 4 hour chart, we are now within the premium of that 4 hour leg right, and we're starting to see some sensitivity as we've come into this 4 hour buy to sell, but we do have a little bit higher to go if we are to come into that daily inside bar. I believe it's an inside bar. It is a daily inside bar, where potentially we may push up a little bit higher. So yeah, for me, shorts are a pretty high probability at this stage. Obviously not ideal that we're coming off daily demand and the weekly is bullish, but I'm more than happy to look for shorts with the intention that we could run these lows here, right? We've got a nice double bottom there. There was a very, very slight sweep of liquidity there, right? But nothing too major. So at the moment, in theory, that looks like a pretty decent target to try and swing a position down. But obviously we can be aware at any point this bullish order flow could stay intact and we could start to break out to the upside. So yeah, most aggressive way I guess is to start looking for shorts from these high time frame areas of supply. It's just looking for those M1 changes of character and those M1 flips, right? You want to be a little bit more conservative, wait for an M15 change of character first. If you want to be even more conservative, wait for an M15 trend change, right? That M15 trend change most likely will be a 4 hour change of character, right? So on and so forth, depending on how much confirmation you want. So yeah, very simply, we're in supply looking for price to come lower, but can be very aware if price is just to continue coming up, mitigating areas of that internal demand, we could end up breaking out, but not really in the most ideal level to be looking for buys, at least from a swing perspective. But let's take a look at the 15-minute chart of kind of the sort of price action we had today. So yesterday we obviously got we switched bullish on the M15 once we took out this sort of major swing high up here, and then we mitigated this flip zone here, right, which we spoke about yesterday. So we had this decision on demand, price came in, and then we had the buy to sell wicks, which then price came into around just before the Asian session yesterday evening on Monday night. And then over the Asian session, what happened, we came down and we had this nice change of character here, right? That's the minor pullback. And then we had all of that movement up towards here. And then we had some substructure breaks, right? That's just a substructure break. But once we get that minor break of structure, that for me is a change of character, then creating a nice supply zone, right? To potentially look to play a bit more of a deeper M15 pullback, right? Because obviously, what do we expect after break of structure? We expect that pullback. How do we know that pullback is likely to start? Well, one, we've mitigated an area of supply, but two, we also have that change of character, right? Making the internal order flow of that M15 bearish, giving us a nice area of supply to look for those potential shorts. Main negative confluence to looking for shorts from here is for price to get back there. Then we also saw a bullish change of character again, right? For price to then come back. So we do have to bear that in mind. But let's take a quick look at the trade that set up in that area. So there were a couple of entries. One would have ended up being a loss. So essentially this is the area that we are looking at. So right, as price came in just around sort of the Frankfurt time, we end up getting a bit of a sweep of liquidity around in this area here. Now, there was actually, let me see, technically a flip here because we had this demand, right? Price came into the demand, tried to make a high and came down. And then there would have been an entry there, but it's quite, for me, that's out of session around 635. Don't really want to be looking for trades at that point. Generally want to see a little bit of liquidity build, which is then what we got, right? Swept those highs, came down into demand, tried to form that higher high, right? Failed to do so, and then we broke down and we got the failed reaction once we closed below that low there, and we also got the change of character once we spiked below here. So for me, the area which caused the reaction to fail is this whole buy to sell range here, right? So I want to be essentially selling anywhere within there once price closes below this low here. So that's quite a big range to be looking to sell in. So that's why I would refine it to this candle up here, and I wouldn't be looking to sell from this, because this is what has caused this reaction to fail, not this decisional here. So this ends up just becoming inducement, becoming liquidity for this area of supply here. So even if you are very conservative, right, with a 2-pip stop and you're still on the distal, giving you nice room there, you'd have been running in a little bit of profit, and then price came back out to stop you out. So in my opinion, that's a very, very high probability trade, one that I would take over and over again, and I wouldn't analyze it too much. The only thing I would say, if I'm being very, very picky about it, but nothing I would really worry about, but the reason why the trade I think failed is because if you look when price then did come down here and we got that change of character, see how aggressively it came back. It's kind of a warning sign that big orders have been filled, big money stepped in. Kind of have to ask ourselves, well, maybe why did that happen? Well, remember over here I said we did have that change of character to the downside, we switched bearish, but then we got a change of character to the upside, right? And then that internal order flow stayed bullish. So what did it create? It created this area of demand. So then once we got the the entry set up over here and price came down, what was happening was price was coming down into this area, right? More refined, there you go, M15 demand, and then it shot up back from there. So a lot of big money has stepped in, but not to worry, you're kind of always going to be trading against something one way or another. So if you did get stopped out there, most likely you would. You can just look for another entry if you like it, right? We've just got a nicer sweep of liquidity here, filling up obviously above the EQ now at this point within the M15 zone. So let me just delete this, keep the charts nice and clear. So you can see those big nice equal highs now that we've swept. Keep pressing the wrong button here. Let's line up the old 4-hour chart. There we go. Okay, so then price comes into our area of demand. Now we get an initial reaction, right? And then it comes down lower. Now for me, the way I'm looking to do things at the moment is I want to see a candle closure, right? Below that low there to truly show me that the reaction has failed, right? Which we don't get until here. Now the other thing that you may also want to do is remember that the few different types that we've looked at with the flips is the highest probability one is not only when you get a candle closure below the reaction to confirm the reaction has failed, but when you also get that change of character, when you get that minor breaker structure on the M1, which is what we get in here. So when we get that failed reaction with the candle closure and the change of character all confirmed with this 737 candle, then you can set your order, right? Where can you set your order? You can set it anywhere within the buy to sell range that caused the reaction to fail, right? Or you can refine it to that last candle up here. Either way, if you use a 2-pip stop, right, putting a stop just above the high and then allowing that to be wherever the entry falls, right, just based on that 2-pip size, you would have been tagged pretty nicely into the trade there. Now, if you missed that, or you wanted to wait for, or even look for a scale in, or you wanted to wait for a bit more confirmation, where was the next entry? Well, for me, the next area of demand, like as price is coming down, is you've got this sell to buy here, right, on the M1. I'll just change this to the M1 here. Okay. Now for me, if you draw your demand zone like that, it had already been tapped into here and it had created a high. So kind of for me, as far as I'm concerned, with an M1 demand zone like that, this has already been mitigated and it's done its job. So I wouldn't be viewing this as failed reactions or whatever, because this has already been mitigated. But what I personally would view as valid, just sync that up, is refining the zone to the wick, because this would obviously be a lower time frame demand zone, right? Something on the 30 or 50 second. So then when price comes into here and then it fails to put in that high, then I would classify that as the failed reaction down there, right? And then where can you sell from? Well, you can sell from anywhere within that whole buy to sell range, but that's obviously like a probably about a 6-pip range. Don't want to do that. So what can you do? You can refine it to the supply at the top, and then that would be another entry here, right? More than 2 pips would be more than enough, and then you'd be in another entry there. Now this is obviously counter trend. You don't want to be swinging for the fences on this one, so targeting the next area of M15 demand would be a pretty tidy target for just over 5R, right? So 2 areas of demand that you could be looking at. I only had the inside bar marked on here, but we did, as you can see, end up going initially lower to then create that high low, right, where we came into. I just draw this accurately. So the way I would do this, right, if I'm looking at this wick, is just to draw it from there to there, just to show that, right, this is the part of the wick that is fully unmitigated, right? Right, so when you draw it across, that's where the remaining fresh orders should be. Of course, there could be some in that low as well. So anywhere from this inside bar or this wick, you can then be looking for entries to try and anticipate that M15 swing high low, right, to then push this up higher into 4-hour supply. So As price came down into that first M15 inside bar, there wasn't really a clean flip for me, but more of just a standard kind of boss entry, right? A bit of a shock there. Price comes back in, and you could have looked for that entry there. I don't think that ran 5R, so depending on how you manage, maybe in a break even or a loss, you could be a little bit more aggressive with that when you do get that break of structure. And then we come lower, right? And then we come down into that next one down here, which is where we do get a valid flip zone that does work out. So what do we get? We get a take of the low, which means we have a minor high here. Price then comes up into that supply, tries to form a lower low, fails to do its job. Price then causes, let me see if we do actually get a candle closure there or not. Yeah, we do, just about. So we get, not only do we get that change of character, but we also get the closure to confirm that we have that supply to demand flip, right? Once we take out that high there. And then obviously, where can you buy from? You can buy anywhere with that sell to buy here range, right? Or you could refine it down to that candle, which does slightly get spiked, ends up mitigating something within here. But yeah, that would have been a very tidy trade to then try and swing to the next, we'll try and form 1.5 pips is more than enough. Yeah, to try and swing this, we zoom back out, up to the 15 high there, right? If you are trying to anticipate that we are going to form that M15 high or low in that overall area there. And then during the London lull, we kind of had these series of mitigations. I mean, you could have even been looking for sort of more advanced hedges here, because what did we have? We had an M15 failure. So when price came into this first zone that we were looking at, tried to form a reaction, and then it came down. So, you could have refined that to this M15 wick here. So as soon as you're in this entry, you could have been looking for hedges. It's not the most well priced, right? Kind of getting in the middle of the range now. It's getting very choppy, but rather than kind of taking profits and partials on your pro trend long trade, you could be a bit more aggressive and look for an M1 flip. So what do we have here? Price comes up. We have the sell to buy wicks, right? So then when price comes into those sell to buy wicks, we get the reaction. It then fails. We get a change of character, and then price comes back up into here, right? This area here, very, very poorly drawn. But essentially that inside bar is what caused these buy to sell to buy wicks to fail, and the change of character. Whoops. And essentially that's how you read the 15-second without needing the second shots or going down that low. And that would have been a very aggressive hedge there to then take. And as you can see, you can just follow the M15 mitigations if you're trading London lull, right? We're getting these minor breaks and again into here, and potentially you could have looked at some entries, right, if you wanted to take it, but I don't really tend to look to trade around that time. And then price shoots up, and we just about get a closure above there, giving us this new swing range, right, to work within. So at this point, as price starts to pull back, we're playing with this. Ooh, press the wrong one again. We're playing within this range here, right, and then this low here, and then looking for price to pull back down into around the EQ, where if you look at what zone is it most likely to come down to, well, ideally always love to see it come down to the extreme, but like this inside bar is really being mitigated. This one's being mitigated here, right? We've had a mitigation here, so this inside bar makes the most sense, right? That's likely to have a pretty decent move, or at least a decent reaction from it. But excuse me, before we come that low, let's look at how potentially we could have played that pullback, right? Because as soon as we get an M15 break of structure, we're filling up the remaining sell orders within, remember this zone, right? The M15 buy to sell flip there. And let's see what we have on the M1. So price comes into it, right? It comes into our demand level. Now it starts to react, but like this is kind of similar to the one that we were just looking at earlier. It comes down and it does wick it. So maybe for you that is a valid sell, but for me I want to see a candle closure. It then does try to form that high, and then we get that candle closure there, and then we just about get that change of character, because I'm happy to just see a wick break on there. So now it's an A+ flip for me. Where can we sell from? Anywhere within that buy to sell range, or of course you can refine it, so refining it up to that inside bar, and now you've got a really, really tidy trade to trade that short. So 2 pips up just about covers a high. You might have wanted to add an extra half a pip there, or maybe just then enter on the EQ, and then you're in a really tidy trade, right? And then you've got over 5-1, because obviously it's counter trend, down to that next very, very clear demand zone down here. Now there was a potential scaling of second entry here, right, where essentially you see the bearish order flow staying intact, and you have maybe a bit more confidence that we're about to go down, and then price comes down to this sort of minor area of demand. Price reacts, pushes down, comes back into the decisional, and then you're off. But of course, just make sure you pay yourself a bit more aggressively with these counter trend trades. Now, for me down here, I don't really see a valid M1 entry. I don't know if I'm being completely blind today. I'm still not feeling great. But yeah, I mean, I had a look on the seconds as well. There's nothing here that meets my entry for a flip entry, because for me, where the flip occurs is we have supply here, price comes down, fails to form a lower low, then we get the flip and the change of character. So then I would have been looking to buy anywhere within the sell to buy range, which of course we do get an entry, but it's a huge range. I don't really want to be looking, if I'm looking for that M1 entry, especially where I'm entering very high up in the 4 hour premium against the 4 hour and daily trend. I don't really want to be, sacrificing my risk reward too much. So, I would have been looking at something like that if I liked it, really refining that to this candle down here, which of course we didn't come down to, but we can understand why, right? Price reacted from the over area. But yeah, for me, there wasn't really an entry. And then what did we get? We got another M15 break of structure, so we're starting to move quite correctively now, right? These ranges are getting smaller and smaller, so potentially the M15 is starting to run out of steam, and that potentially means, right, that we are going to roll over and form that 4 hour and daily lower high. Potentially, it is yet remaining to be seen. So we are now within 4 hour supply, which can refine to this 15 zone as well, which of course I've taken the whole range, but then you could, the more refined way of doing it would be to the wick, right, to get that fractal refinement, because that will be a clear supply zone on a lower time frame. So as price comes into there, this is, like I said, you can be aggressive if you want, because we are trading, really near the high of the premium now from a very clear 4 hour supply zone nested within the M15. We've got the 15-minute break of structure, so maybe you could look to play that to the downside, but at first glance I can't really see a very clean entry here, because we have this inside bar demand, but price doesn't really act, it smashes straight through. Or you could look at the refined M1, but we do get them moving up, and if you looked at that as the failure, yeah, there's nothing really there. And then you could look at the kind of more fractal, potentially it's not great. I don't really like that, because we've already kind of spiked through, but you've got a closure there, right? So you could say that this reaction failed, and then potentially you'd enter on that, but yeah, it's not great for me personally. And I was getting further in the leg, so not really where you want to be chasing price, especially as we're now pretty much well out of session. So yeah, that kind of wraps it up for today. I would still say nothing really great at the moment. The longs, they all make sense, they're there, but we're starting to buy in not so well priced areas. If you're kind of waiting for those real high probability swing moves, this is kind of where now you really kind of want to start paying attention, because we're up in the premium, but still at the moment pro 4 hour and daily trend, we're within 4 hour supply. So this is really where, if you want to be a bit more high probability, I would look for this inside bar to be wicked. That would be enough for me to count that as an M15 change of character. Then I'd be looking for a pullback in, look for your M1 flips within here, and then look to see if we're going to get that 4 hour rollover. So for now, my swing low is down here. And that's the range that we are currently playing within. So of course we could just keep this bullish order flow intact, and we could end up getting that change of character and that 4 hour bullish trend change. But that would be remain to see. We're in high probability areas to look for that higher time frame lower high to start to form. So that would really be my main focus going into tomorrow. Obviously a lot of price action can change between now and the Asian session. If I show you kind of my POIs on the M15, so we could kind of react from these candles here. I haven't quite drawn them on, but to be honest with you guys, anywhere within a 4 hour, if I start to see nice trade setups on the M1 even start to set up, because of how well priced we are and pro high time frame trend, I'm typically happy to be quite aggressive. And then we've got this M15 as well, just above that 4 hour area of supply, right? That's more within the daily zone, because for me that's what the origin of the M15 flip. So we had this M15 demand here, right? Price reacted, failed to put in a higher high, and then we finally got a break of that low there. So of course you can sell anywhere within this range, most of which has been mitigated, right, when we had this movement back up here, which then caused the next leg. But if you refine it to just a candle, then there's a decent amount of orders probably left within there that I would be looking at. And of course, you could look at some of here, but probably then be looking for price to come up to the extreme. So a few areas you can be looking at, but at the moment we're seeing pretty decent bearish pressure off there. So let's see whether we can get a nice M15 bearish trend change, and then look for shorts in there with tomorrow, or even just a change of character can be enough to start looking for a few more aggressive entries. Or of course we could react from this demand and then start to build up a bit higher, build some liquidity going into London tomorrow, and then again just look for our entry models again and again and again. Of course, if we can still anticipate at this stage that it is going to be that pro trend move, and we can start to look like if you're getting any shorts up here, I definitely would advise trying to hold on to some volume, a lot of volume, to try and swing this down to low. But of course, don't be afraid to look for long hedges, in any areas of demand that you see on the way where you can play some decent, valid reactions from. So yeah, that wraps up. I hope you guys have a good another few sessions. I'm out of office tomorrow, but I will be back for the video on Thursday, which will cover both Wednesday's and Thursday's price action. Cheers, guys.